Welcome back to World of Immersion. So recently we just took a trip to the East Coast and we have been posting our videos from that trip, all of our top 10s, all of our vlogs. So make sure to go check out those. For today's video, we are going to be ranking every single roller coaster at Six Flags Great Adventure. This was our second visit to the park and it was much better than the first because many more rides were open that were previously not open. And so now our ranking is updated with a couple more rides in the list. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this list. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss another update from here on World of Immersion. With that being said, let's get right into the video. Now coming in at number 14, we have Little Devil Coaster. This is a kiddie coaster. There's not much to be said. Now coming in at number 13, we have Harley Quinn Crazy Coaster. This is a family/kiddie coaster. So again, sort of makes sense why it's at the bottom of the list here. But it is slightly bigger than Little Devil Coaster, so that's why we put it a little bit higher. Now coming in at number 12, we have Runaway Mine Train. Now this ride was incredibly rough when we rode it. It is definitely one of the worst mine trains we have ever been on. We were just shaking and jolting around in our seats. Not to mention those restraints are very, very, very bulky and uncomfortable. So not a very pleasant ride. Definitely one of the worst mine trains, but slightly better than the kiddie coasters of the park. Now taking the number 11 spot, this ride is actually pretty fun. We have Skull Mountain. Now we will say that the theming up until the actual roller coaster is pretty impressive for Six Flags. It's got some awesome sort of caves and waterfalls that go around the queue. And it's really fun to sort of walk through this sort of Skull Mountain. However, the ride itself is a sort of tame roller coaster. It's very smooth, to be honest, and it's got some pretty good drops. However, it is supposed to really be in the dark, but you can really see the light seeping through the walls, so it kind of defeats the whole purpose of it being an indoor sort of pitch black coaster. If it was pitch black, we think that it would be much, much better, but because it's not, that's why it's where it is on the list. But taking the number 10 spot, we have the other indoor coaster at the park, the Dark Knight. Now this Wild Mouse is pretty good. It has the better of the two layouts of Wild Mice in our opinion, and the theming is actually pretty good. We enjoy the layout a lot. We think it's a ton of fun. And overall, just an indoor coaster is always great. Mixed with the theming, it really just makes it a above par Wild Mouse coaster. Now taking the number 9 spot, we have Green Lantern. Now this was quite disappointing. This B&M stand-up coaster is very, very uncomfortable. It's extremely rough, and the elements are very, very shaky, very jolty. We came off the ride in a lot of pain, and it's honestly one of the worst stand-ups we've been on. A lot of people say it's a really good stand-up, and we just don't see this. Maybe we got a bad ride. It could just be us. However, in general, we just thought it was not that good. All 4 of us actually came off the ride, and were very, very much so disappointed. Still, however, it is a thrilling roller coaster, which is why it is above all the other coasters on this list. So you do get some cool sort of elements with inversions and with hang time and with air time. Stand-ups do provide a decent amount of air time over certain hills. There wasn't a ton of it on this coaster, but there was a bit, so it was kind of fun. But taking the number 8 spot, we have the S&S Free Spin, the Joker. Now, we personally love S&S free spins. We think they are a ton of fun. Batman over at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom is a ton of fun. And the Joker was honestly so much better than any other S&S free spin we had been on. For some reason, it felt like it spun much more than any other free spin we've been on, especially after that first sort of initial little dip. We completely flipped around many, many times, just twisting around through the layout. It was out of control. We were hanging upside down, going through drops upside down. It was just super intense, super fun. Overall, great coaster. Not to mention, these S&S free spins are incredibly smooth. And like the old model that Intamin did with the Green Lantern over at Six Flags Magic Mountain, there was a ton of whiplash, which you do not get at all on these coasters. But taking the number 7 spot, we have the Batman the Ride. This is the very, very famous clone that is found at practically every Six Flags park. And to be honest, it was actually slightly a disappointment. We're not sure why, but for some reason it was worse than the one over at Magic Mountain. This could be just our bias, or maybe we just had a bad ride on this one, but we just thought it wasn't as intense. It was slightly more rough. And overall just wasn't as good of a ride as the one at Magic Mountain. However, that being said, the one at Magic Mountain is very, very good, so this one was still great. The layout is very strong, it's compact, it's got a ton of elements, the inversions are very whippy, very intense still, even though it wasn't as intense as Magic Mountain, still very intense elements. And of course it's B&M, so it is still smooth. It's just got a tiny bit of a rattle, especially at the bottom of the drop and at the top of the loops. But overall, it is still a good roller coaster, and we had a ton of fun riding it. It's actually closed most of the day, and we were very lucky to ride at the very end. But overall, still a good roller coaster, just not quite as good as the one over at Magic Mountain. But let us know down in the comments how this one compares to all of the other clones, and which of the clones is your favorite. Now, taking the number 6 spot, we have the B&M Floorless Medusa. Now, this is a complete clone of Scream at Six Flags Magic Mountain. However, it is mirrored. However, it is a million times better. Scream actually has a great layout. It is just incredibly rough, and this is the opposite. It is buttery smooth. That loop is incredible, super duper smooth. It is a huge loop, so you get a ton of hang time on it, actually. And then the rest of the elements are great. The 0G roll is my personal favorite element of the entire coaster. I think is just perfect. You really feel that 0G on the roll, hence the name. That was kind of a stupid comment. The Cobra roll is okay, just like on Scream. Personally, not a huge fan of Cobra rolls in general, but this one is much better than Scream's because it does not have headbanging, it does not have a buzz or a rattle. It is great. But taking the number 5 spot as we crack the top 5, we have Superman Ultimate Flight. This B&M flying coaster is very fun. It is great. Flying coasters are always fun. That pretzel loop is super intense, like always on flying coasters. Now, it definitely is the weakest flying coaster that we have been on, but that is comparing it to Flying Dinosaur and Tatsu, so that says a lot. This roller coaster, even though it is not as good as Tatsu or Flying Dinosaur, is still a ton of fun. The elements are great. The pretzel loop, like I said, is incredible. The twist is a ton of fun, and always the flying aspect is great. It's very smooth, as are most flying coasters, which is a plus, and it just is a super fun ride overall. This is a clone of other Superman Ultimate Flights, so let us know down in the comments how it compares to the other Superman Ultimate Flights. The only other one that we have ridden is over at Six Flags Over Georgia, and they feel practically the same. Now, the one thing about this ride is it gets an insane wait. We had a basically completely empty day at Six Flags Great Adventure. Everything was 5 to 10 minute lines, and then for some reason, Superman Ultimate Flight had a 100-minute wait, which was crazy. But it is a fun coaster. Definitely not worth 100 minutes, but still a very fun roller coaster, and that is why it takes the number 5 spot. Now, coming to number 4, we have the sort of clone of Wonder Woman Flight of Courage at Six Flags Magic Mountain. This is Jersey Devil. Now, this coaster is a ton of fun, just like Wonder Woman Flight of Courage. We will say it's slightly worse, not exactly sure why. There really aren't any differences to the two rides. But this ride is still a ton of fun. It is an RMC, so it's pretty smooth. Single rails do seem to have a bit of a rattle, especially after a couple years of operation. So we definitely felt that. Also not a huge fan of the sitting position, but honestly, those are the only two things that set this coaster back. Other than that, it is phenomenal. The elements are great. The airtime is incredible. That 90-degree drop is a ton of fun. The 0G stall is super good. The turnaround is always great, very intense. Feels like you take it very fast. We got a trimless mid-course brake run, which was a ton of fun, which means we took that second turnaround very fast, very intense, and then tons of airtime following in those little bunny hills afterwards. Overall, just a fun coaster, super intense, but also very smooth, except for a little bit of a rattle, but overall, pretty smooth. I would say that the two things that hold this coaster back are the slight rattle that it has and the restraints/seat being a little bit uncomfortable. But overall, like I said, still super fun coaster, definitely one of the best at the park. Now, taking the number 3 spot, we have the tallest roller coaster in the world, King Da Ka. Now, this coaster is fun. It is 128 miles an hour and 456 feet tall. You cannot have those stats without having a fun roller coaster. That launch is intense. Feeling the wind blowing in your face, you accelerate, and then at one point it feels like you're done accelerating, and then you pick up even more speed. It is just insane. You can like barely move your head on that launch. It is so intense. And then you go up that spike up into the top hat, and you twist around. You get an amazing view of the park. It is a beautiful coaster. It looks really cool as the skyline for Six Flags Great Adventure. And then you twist down into the drop and then go straight into that airtime hill into the brakes. It is just so much fun, super scary. It is definitely a very intimidating roller coaster. The forces are just so much fun on it, especially just tilting over that vertical drop on the top hat and then going into the twist downward is so much fun. I would say definitely the best part is the launch because it is just so incredibly intense. The only two things that set this ride back is a slight rattle, which is honestly understandable given that it is going 128 miles an hour, and the second being the restraints. Top Thrill Dragster, at least the old Top Thrill Dragster, was practically the same coaster without the extra hill at the end, but it had Intamin's T-bar restraints, and they were so much better. This coaster uses Intamin's shoulder harnesses, which are very, very uncomfortable. It actually doesn't even have the vest restraints, which makes it even worse. It definitely kills a lot of that openness that you should feel on this coaster, which would make it a lot more scary when you're that high in the air. But overall, it still is scary, given that it is 456 feet in the air. Now, taking the number 2 spot at Six Flags Great Adventure, we have Nitro, the B&M Hyper. This ride is a ton of fun, and I mean a ton of fun. That drop is incredible, and then going straight into those airtime hills, it is just a phenomenal roller coaster. Every single aspect about it is so much fun. It is buttery smooth. The floater airtime is the best out of any B&M Hyper that we have personally been on, maybe comparable to Goliath over at Six Flags over Georgia. But overall, such a good roller coaster. The elements are very, very well designed. It doesn't feel repetitive. It doesn't feel lame. It doesn't feel basic. It feels unique. It also is very intense. That helix, you definitely are going to be graying out on that. And just overall, it provides such a good experience with tons of airtime and intensity mixed into the ride. Overall, a fantastic number 2 for the park, but it doesn't quite take the number 1 spot. Coming in at number 1 at Six Flags Great Adventure, we have El Toro, the Intamin prefabricated wooden roller coaster. Now, the first time we visited Six Flags Great Adventure, this ride was closed due to the accident that it had in 2021. However, in our most recent visit, we were able to ride it, and it was incredible. It was definitely one of our favorites of the entire trip. This ride is just insane. It is one of the best starts to any ride that we have ever experienced in our life. You go up that super fast cable lift into that very, very, very steep drop, followed by some crazy intense airtime hills. Those airtime hills are insane. You are flying out of your seat. It is crazy. Following that, you have some awesome smaller hills mixed with a few little twists and turns. There's that really awesome S-bend sort of section where you twist left and right, and that is a ton of fun. Very, very intense. This ride is just out of control. It is incredible. For the most part, it is relatively smooth. There are definitely some rough patches, which are a little bit unpleasant, but it honestly doesn't matter because of how insane this coaster is. Everything about it is just so much fun, not to mention the restraints are incredible. You have a tiny, tiny little lap bar that's holding you in. And just overall, it is a fantastic coaster and a great number 1 for the park. But anyway, that's going to do it for our video today here on all the coasters ranked at Six Flags Great Adventure. We hope you enjoy. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss another update from World of Immersion. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you in the next one.